Right, well, enough of that. Good evening, everybody. It's the Monday, the 19th of May. I'm just reading here on my wiki dates page. I always like to do this for my listeners, you know. It's a bit of a sad day today. Today's Ho Chi Minh's birthday today. Did you know that? If you're Greek, it's Greek Genocide
Oh,
Remembrance Day. It's a little bit. It's Malcolm X Day in the
oh,
United States. It's
fondant.
Hepatitis Testing Day.
Mm,
International. I'm just thinking, is there anybody else we know?
Right.
Not really. Anyway, good evening, gentlemen. Are we all right?
mm. Great
International
launch the
Museums
muffin
Day
flavours
yesterday.
today. Quite important. Yeah.
Hang on.
Big launch the lemon bacon muffin today. That was quite important.
Oh, you said, Nicholas, what was it yesterday?
International Museums Day, which is
National
probably more
Museums
important
Day.
than lemon baked muffin day, but yeah,
And it's Bee
I
Day
don't think many
tomorrow.
people did much.
It's World Bee Day tomorrow to keep all the bees happy. I know that. It's on my brief
Zzz,
for the morning. Right.
zzz.
Oh,
We're welcome to episode 69. Can you believe it's that many episodes? And really, because
Yeah.
we've been all over the place. We haven't really got met up. So I just thought there's been quite a lot of interesting things in the news. Probably because there's nothing else much going on in the world apart from wars in Ukraine and Pakistan and India and a new pope. But there's been quite a lot of beer in the news. So I thought we'd catch up on some beer news.
Israel.
And these two have got a little bit of an idea what's coming up, but not much. And we'll do our normal catch up. But just a bit, as I say, it's quite a few things that Bruce regularly sends me. I think that even Nicholas sent me a couple this time, which is very nice. So I say it's probably about a month since we were last on the air. We're just about the point where apparently the weather's going to break this week, isn't it? Just as we get towards the bank holiday again, which isn't fun.
needed
I'm
to, needed
forward
as
to
well.
a trip down the west coast of Ireland from Friday onwards. I've just ordered my bottle of paddy from the click and collect from duty free
You're
to get my 10% off. Actually, it's 15
Oh,
quid for a bottle of paddy. I
fantastic.
thought it was very, very reasonable, East Midlands Airport. And of course, for the
that
time being,
litre.
Can you?
we're travelling to
Yeah.
the EU, although it may be today, and that might all change because our Prime Minister's just come back. Well, he's just
Yeah.
renounced a new European deal. Anyway, let's crack on. Let's crack on. So we've got a few little beery highlights. As always, listeners, you know this. Bruce's mainly consists of food, so there's going to be a few food highlights, including some pie and mash that he had a couple of weeks ago when he was again in London. I spent my weekend last weekend in Port Merion, which was very, very nice. Although
Wow.
unfortunately, it's a lovely place, and our Potter friend Keith Brymer Jones came to see us as well, and his wife. Oh, hang on, let me go to Barrier. The only downside is we get free beer when we're there. We get free drinks when we're there. But the only bloody beer they had on was bloody Brooklyn Stonewall IPA, and then just Carlsberg
Oh,
and. I think the cider drink is quite happy because it was that summer, whatever it's called, cider. But it's such a shame because there's some cracking breweries in that bit of the Thin
I
Peninsula,
know.
and particularly Purple Moose, which is literally down the road. But
It's shocking
anyway,
how these
go on.
no, it's mad how museums and things don't support
Yeah,
local businesses and
because I
breweries.
presume
It
I
is
think
quite shocking,
it's run
isn't
by
it?
the trust, so it's not like
And it,
it's a it's a franchise that's coming in. They did used to have some Welsh beer on last year, but seems to have gone. And thankfully, got into Porthmadog. I did manage to get to the Australia, which is their kind of brewery tap. And again, there's some really nice beers on, but a little bit of shame. And then the other one I came across this weekend, we've mentioned a Red Willow a few times. Red Willow are a brewery based in Macclesfield. One, I think the three now Macclesfield breweries, and I know Nick, we've been to there. It's quite a nice, quite a posh tap, isn't it? In a quite a nice square, Red Willow. Do you remember it's that glass fronted one that's kind of down from the station
Oh yeah, it's like an
across from the
old
Weatherspoons, yeah. And it's
haberdashery
their
shop.
anniversary. I think it's their
Yeah.
10th anniversary, and they've linked up with the Colonel Brewery, obviously a very famous crafty casky brewery, and they've got craftless. Although I say it was funnily it was in 3 or 4 pubs in Newcastle the weekend, and our normal beer connoisseur. Down at the Bridge Street Alehouse, he wasn't very happy with it, but I think it was all right. It wasn't too bad. The other one I got into on Saturday, and I had a bit of a rant, was about queuing. because I know there's lots of things about queuing in Weatherspoons, and whenever somebody goes to Weatherspoons a queue, they always kick off.
Mm.
Well, I've got to say, Weatherspoons was semi kind of busy on Saturday afternoon. Lots of bloody stag doos. I'll come back to one of those in a minute. I went to the bar. There was people being served, and I thought, right, well, if I go and stand it, I'll be next. So I stand there. I've got to say again, it was one of those afternoons when all the pedantic staff were on. Although do worry about Weatherspoons. They come to the till, they ask you what you want. They then, in our Weatherspoons now, they make you pay before they go and get the drinks. So you had to pay. Then she went off right to the other end of the bar to make the drinks, and then walked all the way back individually with each individual drink for the bloke in front of me. So by the time it came to my turn, 3 or 4 more blokes had turned up and just hoiked straight in front of me, straight in the bar. So there was no bloke next to me saying, "Oh, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
And so we said, "Oh, let it go. Next time, right? Who's next?" And it was like, and it must have been 2 or 3 people who just walked straight to the front of the bar. There's clearly people there waiting. And it just pissed me off. And in the end, me and the old bloke said, "Right, hang on a minute. Next time you asking who's next, will you ask us to, please?" And she got it. "Oh yeah, right, sorry." Said, "Right, well he's next, and then he's next, and then it's him." So anyway, and I went to Mellard's, and Mellard's, one of my little favourite locals, they always queue in Mellard's, and I quite like it. I don't know. Where are we queues, gents, in pubs?
Well,
Well, I think
Weatherspoons,
it's a good
it'll be
idea.
the regulars
I mean,
in Weatherspoons that just walk up to the bar.
Well, I'm a regular in Weatherspoons. They know me. I go in
mean,
most
again-
weeks.
Right.
Bruce, what do you think?
I mean, I've looked that man on YouTube was that Great British Brewer Crawl. He's very anti-queuing, but like you say, the truth, it depends the type of establishment you're going to, really, isn't it? Yeah, and I was at Wetherspoons and North Allerton not so long ago, and I say there were people just barging in front, and you might as well have been invisible in the minute we walked out. Again,
I'm the same. I walked out 2 weeks ago.
Tough job.
Yeah, I was stood at the bar waiting, and I said, "I'll stop." I had 2 or 3 people. I said, "I'll stop this. I'm walking out." So and maybe I should be with my camera vouchers in the air. I don't know. Right, Bruce. So
It is an hard job, especially the problem in Weatherspoons is the bars are so long. I've always said it should be like Asda at the deli counter where you get a raffle ticket with a little sign comes up.
I do think that
true, yeah.
but the way you design a bar,
I mean, I was in
though,
Devon.
but the way that you design a bar, especially a big bar like that, because they all have their own stations. I get that. They've all had their own tills, but then surely most of the drinks should be within 5 foot of that station, shouldn't they? You shouldn't have to walk 20 foot, 25 foot to the end of the bar to get some iced and then walk all the way back again. It was anyway. So, Bruce, you went down Landon.
Well, yeah, that's
you
always
went-
been the trouble with Weatherspoons.
Right, and you went for some pie and mash. You didn't quite get to the eels.
You did. No, we did. So yeah, we'd be bucket list food. I've also go for a proper East End pie mashup. So we went down to Poplar, we did our research, and I think Manzi's was the original fantastic pie mashup. They're kind of franchise now, but by I think a lot of people's know their knowledge. Say Maureen's in near Chris Street Market in Poplar's, the best in London. So we duly navigate the DLR and washed up in Poplar and Chris Street Market. I've seen not the most glamorous place of all, Poplar, and Chris Street Market's kind of stuck in a 60s pedestrianised precinct. In fact, it was the first pedestrianised shopping area in this country, and sadly not a penny's been spent on it since. However, there was a quite astonishing market going on there. There was a piece of fruit and vegetable from anywhere in the globe you could buy there, and the prices were bonkers. I mean, one stone, I don't eat avocados, but my friend me was saying, look, if you avocados, £1, the 90p each in Morrison's. I mean, and the people who were there, everybody was buying fresh foods and herbs and spices. There was a fish man there who only did 1 bag of ice for his fish. There was an awful lot of flies on the fish, but the prices were cheap. Certainly some experience Chris Street Market, very culturally diverse place. But then in the midst of it all, is Maureen's Pie Shop. I was quite relieved because a lot of them don't do gravy, but I really couldn't see it when I saw that he could do it. So yes, for those people watching, I could only face 1 pie, and they do that the thing where they get the mash from a bucket and scrape it with a big metallic spoon against the plate.
Don't worry too much about presentation either, do they, Bruce? Look at them pictures.
No, they certainly don't. But the place was packed.
Is it blind people that run these places?
No, they're all the
No, that's
same.
how
That's
it's
the traditional way to serve it.
Scrape it on the side.
Serve it by getting It's supposed to be like that. And
Yeah, the
that's the
strippers out
time-honored
of
way of
place.
serving it. I've said
Yeah.
I'm not a huge lover of mashed potato, but it was delicious. The pies themselves, the old concept are weird. They're soft on the top and crispy on the bottom, or the other way around, sorry. And then it's kind of a miscellaneous mashed minced beef. I have to say I've tried it, enjoyed it. If that's the best example of pie mash, I didn't try the worst. Let's say that. My friend had two pies and went for the liquor,
And
and
with
he
the
had the
liquor as
evil
well.
as well.
So
Then he
liquor's
danced to
parsley.
it.
Is it parsley in the liquor,
That's how
isn't it?
Sweeney Todd. That's how Sweeney Todd made his money, Bruce.
Yeah,
Shocking the
I
people
know.
up.
Yeah, because they had
Mixed.
golly
What do you
beef.
call it? Mixed mince meat. Could
I
be
know.
anything in
Right,
there.
and then we need
Well, the
to
great
move
thing about
over.
it was a great cross section.
Good. The other
Yeah,
theme,
there's
the
a
other
lot
theme
of
for
people there.
today is scary pubs, because that became a bit of a theme this last week as well on various social media. So Bruce, where you came across these two pubs here, the Festival Inn, where was this one?
Again, this one on each side of Chris Street Market, there's a pub. Now, the first one, I have to say, I've since found out it's called Callahan's. We thought it was closed, but there were people stood outside. And come out quite like a scared for myself, but even I thought, bloody hell. So we thought, no, it's closed, just hanging around. And there was a blackboard outside advertising. You could get a £1/4 of burger for £2, a kitchen open, chips for £1.50, the Sunday roast for £7. And then, although some of the windows were boarded up and there was signs hanging down, we looked inside. There were actually people stood at a bar. I mean, they might have gone inside. They might have been lovely and friendly. I did go to the Rock and Salmon on Bethnal Green High Street. They were lovely. But I have to say, this was probably the most foreboding pub I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I've been to Toxteth and I've been to Corporation in Grimsby. This was on a different level. So we decided not to go to that. In fact, I dare even take a picture of it because these people were there and I just felt it would invite in trouble. I've been into stereotype people, but like proper East End hard men. Then at the other end of it, astonishing, there's another pub again, which looks like it was going to be shut, falling down, the Festival Inn. Barely a window in it, boarded up. I think this is Mike's picture on YouTube again.
Yeah,
But the most foreboding of places. Again, it was open, but again, we decided discretion made better that valor we couldn't go in. But what was astonishing about the Festival Inn, and believe you me, was insanely rough.
Is that
Not
festering or festival?
the Festival Inn. But when I came
Not
back
festering, right? Okay.
Festival Inn, I did a bit of research, and astonishingly, the interiors in the camera inventory of National Historic Pub Interiors, it's got a mirror that was commissioned for the Festival of Britain. If I went down again, if I wanted to go, I'd probably go to the Festival Inn, but I'm not going to risk my arm with the other one. I have to say, I think they were probably the two roughest looking pubs I've ever seen in my life.
yeah. So we don't know the name of the one.
Would you try it?
Oh, absolutely. But anyway, all we
I think
know
the
is
one was
it's
Callahan.
on maybe Callahan's on the other end of Chris Street. It reminds you, Bruce, of that one we found in Stockton on Tees when we had a little tour up there. And do you remember that one? I mean, we found two cracking micro bars, and then we found this pub that was actually
We did,
listed.
yeah.
But it was that was all boarded up, and all they were serving was cans. There was no beer. They were just cans, handing cans up at the bar, and that had again some very
That was
interesting looking people in there as well. All right, and then at the other end of the stick, you had a lovely trip up to Northumberland, and you had a quick trip round Alnwick, and you also went to Alnmouth as well. I think, Nick, we've been to Alnmouth, haven't we? The Sun Inn is where we've tended to go, isn't it, in Alnmouth, if I remember rightly, which is very nice. And then what's that one on the corner that's kind of lower down? I can't remember what that was called. Is that the Red Lion?
there's the Red Lion, which we didn't go into because we've got our time, and we did go to the Sun Inn first because I know they were really, really good steak pie, but fortunately the chef had vanished, left him in the lurch. We didn't have the Red Lion, and we also went to the. There's also a workingmen's club there, a servicemen's club, which is open to everybody. And I think we should have gone to the Red Lion, but we went to the Whitling House, which is a very upmarket sort of gastro pub. Very welcoming. The staff were lovely. And food budget double stroke, £14 steak pie. We had this rather stunning feather blade of beef, which it was stunning mash. It was wonderful, but it was £28, which was a bit much for a beery tea. But nevertheless, well recommended. But I'd say pub of the day was undoubtedly the Tanner's Arms in Alnwick. because we went to look around the gardens. The Good Beer Guide again got a spot on this one really. Again, you see outside it's got that great Northumberland stone facade there. It very clearly states intentions on there's a sign there saying, you know, he only sources beers between the Tyne and the Tees. And then when you go inside, he's got a bar with an amazing range of Catskills on it. Lovely friendly staff, dog running about. And most incredibly of all, there's a beech tree in the middle of the pub. It's just so atmospheric. I'd love to be there on a dark night. In fact, he was saying that in Storm Alwyn, they lost all the power and had it candlelit, and he said it was the best night they've had in the pub, really. Yeah, the beer was stunning. I had a pint of Pagan Queen. It was absolutely fantastic. There's a porter all the time. My friend of the porter, he loved that. But I say that is an absolutely superb pub, the Tanner's Arms, a proper pub. So definitely, if you get to Alnwick,
Yeah, the one
place to
that
get to though, Alnwick.
I'm just checking the Good Beer Guide. It's the one that I keep missing is the Ale Gate, which I think is just a bit further up from there. It's on the other side of the kind of the gate that come across the road, but it has quite strange opening times.
I saw the Ale Gate. Now, it was a Friday afternoon and we were in Alnwick. The Tanners had it open till 3 and the Ale Gate still had it open when we left there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems to be a cracking micro pub, but it's not opening hours are bizarre.
Yeah.
So, Alnwick's a good little place. Sadly, a few empty shops in the place, but a grand little place.
Did you walk up to the bookshop?
If you go to Alma,
you ever go walk up the bookshop?
No, Barter Books. No, we're going back again soon.
Oh, well, because
we went to the garden.
Trains running on your head, little trains running on your head because it's in the old station building. So it's not cheap, I would say. It's quite expensive, but lots of books. Yeah.
I think me and Christine are going to go up sometime next 2 or 3 weeks again. Because one place we did stop off, I never had time for a pint because they went to get back home. But Morpeth, I've never been to Morpeth. Now, Morpeth's a very posh little town. I would say it's the Harrogate of Northumberland. They've got a pub there, the Joiners Arms. It's got one of the biggest whiskey collections in England. And there appears to be a tap and spile at the back of the bus station. That's supposed to be cracking. So we are going to return and do it again, minus the gardens. The gardens, I think, at £20 a pop are far too expensive. But when the cherry blossoms out, it's the largest cherry tree orchard in the world now, so blossom time's worth a visit. So yeah, pretty good day out there. Sadly, not accessible on the £10 train tickets. So, but yeah, good day out. And I said that Tanner's Arms was fab. We'll try and get there again though when you come up one day, and we'll visit the Ale Gate. In fact, we could possibly try and incorporate it on the way back from.
No,
what trip without trying to do a bit of research.
We won't have
is that including Newcastle, Berwick, and Durham as well?
Yeah. Morpeth's got a fantastic.
You'll be on Pepsi by then anyway.
Morpeth's got a great Weatherspoons. Actually, it's called the Electric Wizard or something because one of the local engineers. And it's tucked away. It's in the old. It's in the old cinema, but it's one of those quite nice. It's quite a small Weatherspoons actually, which is very nice. And then come on, you've also got to tell us. Can we send your lad again? This is another pub that was all over social media last week, but your lad went after Blackpool and for in the whatever of research, he went to the Talbot, which is currently telling everybody it's the first reform pub. So it's not quite in there. What is it? A kind of purple colour these, don't they? But it's in bright blue. It's got lots of Union Jacks all over it, and some quite eye-watering prices really for both food and drinks. So they're certainly after the punters.
Absolutely astonishing. Yeah, he did go there. I think it was a bit of a culture shock, like a lot of young people. It's been all over social media, so we borrowed some £10 train tickets, and him and his friend took themselves off to try and to visit the first Reform UK club. They're not Reform Sports, I should add. But yeah, he said it was quite astonishing. He said a very strange mix of people in there. People obviously who've been to the pub before, people joined by the low prices. He said there was clearly some, right-wing nutcases in there. Then, of course, people going in because you could get a pint of Robinson's and Black Sheep at £2.50, and I think Carling's £2.50. The meals have started at £2.50. The Sunday roast, I think, was incredibly cheap as well, wasn't it?
£5. Sunday roast, £5.
Very
all day breakfast, £2.50. Chicken curry with chips or rice, £3.50 all day. They're definitely feeding things. Although there's a big sign there as well. Again,
made by English people.
Ben took a picture of the bar, so it's one of the do not bring your own food into the Talbot, and then drugs will not be tolerated in any way on these premises. I need to perhaps tell that to one or two of their new reform candidates. Yes, it's quite interesting. We're obviously, well,
Yeah.
not quite us, but well, in fact, yeah, I am. I now live in a reform county council. The first thing they did was ban
Oh
all
no.
flags. So the first thing they did was the only flags that could be flown would be a Union Jack or St George's flag. No other flags could be flown on any
Oh my
public building
God.
or any school.
Well, that's always been the law. In your front garden, even on your own premises, you are
No,
only
this was
supposed
on
to
this was on
fly the
public
national flag.
buildings. This
That's
was on
been
count.
that's
No,
that has
Nicholas,
been the law,
hang on,
though.
shut up.
Yeah, but that's been the
No,
law.
that's not the law. This is on a public building, on a civic
It has
building or
always
a
been the
school.
law.
No, hang on. You, they changed the bylaw so you can only fly on a civic building, not your own house, on a civic building, the Union Jack or the St George's flag. They had to backtrack on day 2 because they realised that they couldn't actually fly the Staffordshire flag on any of their civic buildings. So they then came back and said, we've changed our mind. You can now fly your county flag. We've then had about 3 or 4 of them who've had to resign. Mainly one particularly who's had to resign with 3 different councils because he was talking about the Navy bombing immigrant ships in the Channel. So we'll have to see what happens next. So
Oh my
with
God.
Staffordshire County Council
Sounds
now,
like the Labour Party that's running the country. Then people resigning.
60 new councillors, not one, I think 2 of them have had any experience. And it's a bit like Hull, isn't it? Isn't Hull now?
Sounds like the Labour Party and their ministers.
Isn't Hull now looked after by an elected mayor who's only claimed to him as being a boxer? He's got no qualifications, never ran a business, and he's now in charge of something like £280 million worth of civic money to run the.
He's just a puppet, isn't he? It's quite chilling though, isn't it? I mean, when you get into power, the first thing you do is start ranting on about flags, and you've got all that issues around where you live. It's not good stuff at all, is it? And it's
Anyway, scary
sadly,
pub.
the council making 9 point. Holy delete out.
Let's move on to scary pub. So I say for some reason it kept coming up, maybe because everybody's out and about. Anyway, this one came up, and my first 2 scared to go into pub yesterday. This one is in Lascelles, Birmingham. It used to be called the Observatory, but is now called the Ramiyar Restaurant and Bar. So this was quite interesting because then what they then came up with. Look at this one. So this is typical like bloody social media. So people then started piling in. And the comments I picked up here is so somebody said, yeah, the observatory, the license was revoked in 2020 by the council after complaints of fights and public urination. Then somebody else said, I also discovered there was an incendiary device incident, possibly a petrol bomb being thrown in the pub. So it's lost its license for 5 years and has just been reopened. So that's another.
They've got the Union Jack up.
Another great one to go. And then these 2 also then cropped up. Bruce, you put yourself on mute. This is the Cross Key. This is somewhere in southeast England. I couldn't actually work out where it is. But this
Oh my God, that looks rough, doesn't it?
Look at our flat roof murder pub. This is our
Looks like somebody was inside.
And then this one here, this was Wolverhampton fans putting on their worst away. And this is apparently is Aston Villa, and it's the Witten Arms. And actually, if you're on YouTube, you can see there's a picture that's looks like there's been a fire in one corner of the bar. It just says help, and then a television with stickers all over it. Looks absolutely classic. Anyway, from horrible pubs, Nicholas, you had a little trip, little walk in the good weather, and yeah, there's a very fine pint of foaming Yorkshire ales there, and that's in the Flying Duck, isn't it, or whatever it's called these days in lovely Ilkley.
I'm not seeing that. I think I must be in Australia today because there's been a time lag when you lot have been speaking and pictures coming up. Oh, there we are. It's eventually arrived now. Yeah, that's in the Ducks in Ilkley. Yeah. So often miss going in there now because my other half prefers to go in the Spoons because obviously there's a bit more choice for her. But yeah, hang on. Pictures are moving around. Yeah, they had the full rack up, but also they have they also have the Craven in there as well. It's a Hetton. Is it Craven? Is it Craven Brewery? Is it Hetton Brewery? They use like the old fashioned cast iron road sign. Like the old road signs you see in the Dales with the round symbol on it, almost like the underground symbol. That was sort of like to the other end of the bar. So yeah, it was quiet. Ilkley itself was rammed. It was a nice day. Great to see that park. I know you've been to that park before, Bruce. It just ran full of people because they have lots of different facilities there. Obviously, there's the fish and chip place and the ice cream place down by the river there. Didn't get to see the Lido. I thought the Lido would have been around that day. But coming up from the river, that's the first little pub you come to opposite the box tree in it. And then obviously convenient for them where the spoons is just that little side street. So sat in there, it was nice. It was warm outside, but obviously with it, it's sort of like subterranean, isn't it? That pub. You go down 2 or 3 steps to go into the actual bar itself. So it's nice and
nice pub,
nice and cool in there. It was, yeah.
And again, always good beers, aren't they? In fact, the brewery weirdly is on the back of the pub, isn't it? It's not a very big brewery, and you don't see their beers very often. I think they do a little bit around the Dales, but you very rarely see them further afield. But again, it's probably one of them where they've got a great little pub, and the pub is a bit of a TARDIS, isn't there? There's upstairs to it as well, and the room on the left as you go in, it's a bit bigger than you think actually. But very good. In fact, we'll come back to Ilkley because there's some maybe not so good news about Ilkley coming up. So let's get on to some beer news. This one again came up on my timeline, so I'll explain it for those people on YouTube. So there's a picture here of a bloke, probably from what it says 1950s. He's got a kind of Hessian bag on his head full of beer bottles, and he's carrying another probably 5 or 6 pint bottles in his hand. Apparently, this is Jack Pinchers, whose job was a beer carrier at the Round Oak Steelworks. And his job was to fetch beer to keep the workers rehydrated in Dudley, England. And then this started to spin off again. Loads of other people talking about pubs in steelworks. So there's then people saying that in Teesside, in Middlesbrough, there was actually a pub in the steelworks. And then people saying in Sheffield, most of the steelworks had pubs.
In Sheffield there was.
And then this then started to go along, and actually said that actually it's not, unfortunately not there anymore. But yeah, the White Hart was actually inside the Brown Bailey Steels company, which is now where the Don Valley Stadium is, kind of top end of Sheffield. They then somebody said that he used to work there. He used to work at Tinsley. Tinsley was where the flyover is, where the M1 is. And they send out for buckets of beer to the YMCW, to the Working Men's Club, 3 times a day. But then a new manager came in and replaced beer with, so that's just an orange flavoured saline solution. And then picked up another one that said, actually, old Sheffield fire stations had a bar in them until the 1990s. So when the guys went off shift, most of the fire stations had a bar in them. And then again, one of the people said, "Yeah, my dad was a bucket boy, or my grandfather was a bucket boy." And apparently in Sheffield, steelworkers had a 40-pint weekly beer allowance, so they'd go and get. But of course, what this came up with is all these knobheads jumping in, say, oh, how can you be drinking when you're working? And it's completely opposite. It would dehydrate you. Not realizing that most of this beer, as we've talked about it before, was the mild, was that 2% beer, wasn't it? It was 2% beer. So yes, there's a little bit of dehydration, but actually at 2%, it's probably easier to digest, because actually drinking water is the hardest thing to digest from my sports science background. So drinking very mild ales, 2.5%, 3%, to put back in the sweat that you were losing was a well-known fact. So I just thought that was interesting, and that then of course led on to, as we've discussed before, the bank pints. And again, I think we have talked about this before. This was particularly a northeast thing, where again, because of the way the shifts,
they've got time, did we?
Yeah, because they work the shifts. So what they do is they bank the beer. So they pour, a bit like they do with Guinness, I guess. They would simply pour hundreds of glasses of half bitters, and they'd stick them down the bar, so that when all the blokes came in, on the change of shift, they were full pints ready on the bar. And as things developed, this then became a tradition. They now stick them into the fridges. And again, I think it was a Sun in Stockton Brews, wasn't it? Where they were there waiting for us, but unfortunately they wouldn't let my son in at the time. Wasn't 18, so we had to go. But yeah, the bank pints were another kind of Teesside.
And to be fair to the Sun, it was.
Yeah.
It was one of the dreadful craft union pubs.
And then it got talking about that actually there were 3 beers.
Very few redeeming features, but it was nice to see him keeping the bank pints alive, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that was, I think, one of these is that pub there. Then it actually got him talking about that actually there were actually some keg beers specifically made for this trade. Tetley's Imperial, John Smith's Magnet with a twang of licorice, and also the what was the other one on there? The Worthy. These were actually all made for the northeast kind of taste. So very interesting, very very interesting. Right. Now, our good friend, the Great Beer Festival man, not beer festival, pub crawl bloke, the bloke who's going to go to every pub in the UK, he was sharing some love for Sam Smith this week. Two extremes, really. So he set up a whole post around the York Arms. He'd been to York again. I know he's done York a few times, but anyway, a rather sad picture of the York Arms, which, as we've discussed before, is still, as I think we know, Bruce, still empty, isn't it? This is in the shadow of the Minster, probably one of the busiest corners in the whole of York, and has now been shut for, must have been shut for 6-7 years, hasn't
ridiculous.
it now? And would have turned over. Interesting. Did you get a chance, Bruce? Go and have a look at some of the comments.
Absolutely. Well before clover.
Yeah. They're putting the blame on an area manager who didn't particularly like the LGBTQ community. Because this pub apparently was it was, wasn't it? It's always known as being a place for LGBTQ
right,
friendly. Apparently spent lots and lots of money, but that wasn't good enough.
That was the dead friendly.
Yeah. And then the other one he also posted, which has not been on my radar, is the Darley Abbey, the Abbey at Darley Abbey.
Astonishing, this.
This is a Sam Smith's pub,
and this
is actually an Augustinian abbey, which is very relevant because the new pope is an Augustine, isn't he? And this looks fantastic inside. It literally is the 12th century abbey.
We have to go here.
Just with the bar shoved in it. Yeah, and it looks fantastic. So,
is it actually open though?
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah.
It's got. If you look there, they've even got.
It's incredible. Every time I go to Fountains Abbey, I was thinking, great stuff.
They've even got Sam Smith's memorabilia for sale. Look,
that looks amazing
at the bottom there. So yeah, definitely one we need to go and find out. So Darley Abbey, if I remember right, just north.
Yeah,
of Derby,
yeah. I had no idea this existed. It looks bonkers, doesn't it? We have to. I'm going to definitely try and get there soon rather than later.
Oh well, there's Darley Dale in there. Darley Dale is just north of Derby. Yeah. Around Ilkeston, in it.
How close to Derby can we get the Northern Rail tickets? We can go to Nottingham on Northern Rail, and you go to Alfreton and places like that. So if we get to Alfreton, we could probably get a bus here. Yeah, we'll look into it. Yeah.
Look into it. So
it bonkers,
there's a nice board that says this was an abbey founded in 1137. In 1538, it was part of the dissolution of Henry VIII, and it then became a kind of medieval hall house used to kind of for travellers. And then it was opened as a pub in 1979. So yeah, it retains lots of the original features. So very, very nice. Right, we've got about 5 minutes left. So we'll do another couple of stories, then we'll take a short break. So let me find. Sorry, I've gone too far now. So we haven't talked about we have talked about Wetherspoons, but we've got to do them all, haven't we? So again, shock horror. Wetherspoons announced this about a month ago now, wasn't it? That they are withdrawing. It actually happens this week. They're withdrawing their steak nights, their mixed grills, and their gammon from their menus. And disappointing.
Yeah, what are they? Is this a mystery? Isn't that only on a Wednesday night when it's burger night and they need the grill? I read a report and it suggested, in fact, they weren't getting rid of it completely. It was only on a Wednesday night, which is burger night, and they need the grills.
It's not the menu. Gone, vanished.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently, now I was in one, and they said they think Tim Martin didn't want them to go. They said they think, because obviously, like most big companies now, Wetherspoons is made up of just people like Morgan Fidelity and horrible BlackRock investments. They've got a chunk of shares of it now. It's made up of investment fund managers, isn't it? And apparently he didn't want to go because quite understandably, you will get older people go there. I'm sure they go towards a gammon or something like that. A lot of people like my father would never eat a burger. A lot of old people. So they might not have made a lot of money. I find it hard to believe they're losing money on these. But what you've done is you've kind of alienated some customers who don't like tacos and pizzas and burgers. Strange move, this, I think, really. And to be fair to him, it's I can kind of see. Apparently, he didn't want him to go, but of course
But he's the major shareholder still, isn't he?
No, he's only got 23.4% of the company now, Nick. So unfortunately, he's just, he's still a hell of a chunk of the company, but unfortunately, signs that the bean camps are taking over. People who don't really understand, who really don't understand the pubs. But a strange move, this, and I think it's, not good at
Well,
all, really.
some of the theories
I mean,
put
but the shares are
forward.
up again, aren't they?
Yeah, some of the theories put forward were that obviously it was the most return thing that Wetherspoons do. Steaks badly cut because the people,
No, I
and there was
understand.
some of that. This and quite a few ex-managers were saying, "Look, it's a nightmare because people think they know it all. They ask for medium rare, then they get medium rare, then they moan,
Yeah.
say, no, it's too red. It's not. It's cooked enough. It didn't meet the 10-minute cook rule either, so they're really pushing their 10 minutes, and
No.
apparently it took longer than 10 minutes to cook. Energy costs. These were the most energy costing meal they do because you've got to put the whole grill on. And not only that, then you get the cleaning, so it takes twice as long to clean. They did say that
Mm,
steak nights was one of the best nights they had in Wetherspoons. However, they did say the problem
mm,
was they were always chasing value, and therefore the quality was getting to a point that it was getting crap, and they couldn't get the volume. And they couldn't
yeah.
afford to pay for the higher cost. So I think you're right, but I think ultimately it's just bottom line. It's not, we save money. The gourmet burger is supposed to be replacing their steak menus, but I think gammon and stuff like that as well. The breakfast, obviously, they're going to carry on with. But yeah, it's a little bit. I guess the same with their Sunday dinners, wasn't it? Their Sunday lunch had a similar outcry when they kind of pulled that. So interesting. Right, we're going to take a quick break there, and then we will come back for a little bit of part two, where we've got a few more stories to go through, and an interesting story to finish with. See you on the other side, gents.
You see?